Back a year ago.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Beer Bound Podcast. Very excited to be joined today by Diego Lara from Hop, the Beer Experience in Mexico City. Diego started in the beer biz in 2011 after a trip to Boston. There he got to experience the thriving craft beer scene in the US, giving him a strong desire to replicate it back in his home country of Mexico. Diego began by importing beer, buying his first pallet from Germany. Diego opened Hop, the Beer Experience, a craft beer bar, in 2014, and Hop number 2 a few years later. Hop, the Beer Experience is composed of beer lovers learning how to keep their strong passion alive. Diego is also a certified Cicerone beer server, pitmaster in progress. He loves to smoke different kinds of meat, and thus he runs a Texas Style BBQ. To say that Diego loves food and beer is a definite understatement. So without further ado, we welcome Diego to the Beer Bound Podcast. Hello, sir.
Hey guys, I'm doing great here in Mexico City.
How is the weather? How's the weather in Mexico?
We're pretty warm, I guess. We're something around 30 Celsius, but I guess it should be something like around 68, something like that.
Oh yeah, we do Celsius too.
Familiar
okay.
with
We're good with
Fahrenheit. Oh, you're
Celsius.
doing Celsius, yeah.
Yeah, we do. That's great.
Normal
That's
people.
yeah, exactly. Not like that country in between our countries. Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
They do different things.
Cool.
Diego, tell us a bit about yourself and your connection with beer.
I'm 35 years old. I start loving beer, I guess, at least craft beer, maybe 11 years ago. I used to travel to the States for some football games, and suddenly I just figured out there's something more than the industrial beer. So I get caught by Boston Lager and those easy drinking beers you find in the stadium. Yeah, I mean that's where everything starts. And well, then 11 years ago in Mexico, you can imagine that the beer scene was like really small. Everything was around maybe some European beers, some German, Paulaner, uh, and those like regular local beers from Europe. But that was everything here. I mean, there's nothing about IPAs or West Coast IPAs or the new school from the States. And I guess now Canada is also doing a great job in Vancouver and some other cities. But well, 11 years ago, that was just something that you could even imagine. We were just drinking like the regular two big beer brands in Mexico. And yeah, I mean, we have been drinking micheladas. I'm not pretty sure if you know are close to that cocktail.
Like a beer garita sort of thing. Like, is that
Yeah,
what?
something like that. Just to take a beer, like not a craft one because it is not so tasty with the craft. But I mean, for maybe a light lager, you add some chili powder, some lemon, Western Maggi sauce, and well, yeah, that's like the cocktail for a regular cocktail in Mexico that you can drink with beer, and that was mainly the thing I used to drink uh, those years ago. So I suddenly met my business partner. He was not like my favorite person in that time. You can imagine he was like the best friend of my girlfriend in that time, and those best friends are not like the best people you can get in touch with. So yeah, everything started in that time, and well, uh, suddenly I end up with this girl, and we had some tickets to fly to Boston for a Pittsburgh New England match. And when I realized I just had a flight ticket with this guy named Fernando, and there's nothing I could do because I actually reached him and I told him, "Hey, Fernando, I'm Diego. You may remember me. I'm interested about getting that airplane ticket you have because the game is in November, so maybe I can buy it from you." And he was like, "Okay, I won't sell it. I actually was trying to reach you because I needed to buy that ticket." So, long story short, we ended up in that game being like total. Well, we're strangers at all.
Mm.
He was like not my favorite person, as I told you. So, well, we ended up in that stadium drinking some Boston lagers. Well, that's where everything started. Then we fly back. New England won to those Steelers, by the way. Um, and
Sounds about
well,
right.
we used to work in the logistics industry, so we were pretty close to that to imports and exports. So our first plan was to import some beers from Europe. That, as I told you, that was the main market we have in Mexico 11 years ago. So we reached a local tiny brewery uh, in in the south part of Germany named Engel, and well, that's where everything started. We started buying them one pallets, and we import it to Mexico, and we start distributing it in some local restaurants, in some German restaurants. But it was not like a really good business because the most of the restaurants in Mexico are hard to reach and hard to make business
Mm.
with. They are not like really good payers. And even more, 11 years ago when we arrived to their door to offer, just to make a comparison, like oh, offering a sell for $4 for US dollars, where when they can buy from the local distributors in that time a Corona for less than $1. These are 50
Mm.
cents. So it was really tough for us to open the market and to introduce good beers, bigger bottles. Those Germans were for half liter.
Mm.
So like the comparison, it wasn't like pretty easy to make for them for the business the restaurant owners. So we have a tough time, but we make it we make the business keep growing until we realize 2 years later that importing beer and make a like an economic business of paying everything on advance and then pay taxes, pay logistics, and then once you deliver the beer, you need to wait maybe 30 or 45 days to get paid if you have enough luck. In Mexico, that's kind of rude to get paid for a single box of beer. And
Oh.
well, it was really tough. So we had like a really big problem one day. We had a container from the UK waiting to be cleared in Veracruz port, and we were out of money because everything was on our pending accounts of our
Mm.
customers. So we just make like a hard decision about like, well, let's open a beer store and let's sell our beer. And even if we sell one single bottle a day, we'll have the money in our pockets.
Mm.
Trying to avoid giving the credit or that. So everything was like really quick. Maybe less than a month and a half, we were almost opening the store with our last savings. Um, and just like as a miracle, The lawyer that was doing all the permits and stuff with the government for the beer selling, he just told us, "Hey, we can get the permission to open a bar. Are you interested?" I mean, not only at the store, maybe well, you can get maybe 4 or 5 tables in the same spot. Does that work for you? We can add some extra money and get that permit ready for you. So well, yeah, we said totally yes. Let's do it. And I mean, even we had no idea of how to manage a restaurant or well, tap room. We were like, okay, let's do it. I mean,
Why not?
for sure. Actually, I started working in a cafeteria for 2 weeks just to have an idea of how to be a server or something, how to treat a customer, because I was like, no, I wasn't, I didn't have any experience in the hospitality industry. So, well, we did everything we could to make it the best option. And that's the way it how the beer experience came to life.
That's
Being
really
is
that's really cool, Diego. So can we go back just a little bit? So you
yeah,
go
sure.
on your trip to the United States to Boston, and you're sort of exposed to the massive amounts of options that exist in the United States, right? All the different craft beer. So at the time, say in even like a city like Mexico City, your biggest city in the country, did you have a little bit of craft beer going on? Was that a little bit part of the culture, or still most Mexicans at the time, maybe 10 or 12 years ago, still really gravitated more towards your macro beer that was more associated to it? Or is it fair to say that there was a little bit of craft beer in the country a decade ago?
yeah, it was a little bit. There was a little bit of options. As I told you, there were a few German options, something from the UK, Hobgoblin, Fuller's, like everything you now find everywhere. Um, and just a really few advanced people that saw this coming. And actually, 11 years ago, there were a few guys with 5 or 6 years of experience before that time. For example, there used to be a brewery named Tempus, uh, Cucapá, um, Tijuana Brewery. Um, I mean, there were a bunch of little entrepreneurs, people doing like, or maybe they were like really smart finding this industry before even those 11 years before us. And well, that was the only option. Nowadays, they are all sold. They are already sold to Heineken and to
Oh
Anheuser
wow.
Busch. But they were like the pioneers in the Mexican industry of craft beer. That maybe happened maybe 16, 17 years ago, where they started. So yeah, there were really few options in that time. There was well, actually there's still open a bar named El Deposito. They were like the really first tap rooms having some craft beers. I mean, in that time you'll find the craft beers, but you also find the industrial beer and some hard drinks. I mean, they were like open, like trying to fulfill all the expectation of the beer drinker in Mexico. But yeah, I mean that was pretty much everything we had at that time.
So would you say that in the last 10 years has, maybe just focusing on Mexico City, has craft beer really exploded? Have you seen a lot more craft breweries pop up? Maybe not only in big places like the big cities like Monterrey or Guadalajara or Mexico City, but maybe in smaller places. Tell us about craft beer in general in Mexico.
It's really amazing, at least for me, to find even to a small little town in the outside part of the city. I mean, you can drive 200 kilometers everywhere, and you'll find some. We have something named magical towns. We have like 150, something like that, and the most of the places you go, you'll find a tiny little brewery, which was unthinkable 10 years ago. So yeah, answering the question, the boom came here in Mexico like maybe 5 or 6 years ago. There are currently we are around 600 breweries in all the country, which I mean it's nothing. It's nothing. We just reached the last year the 1% of the market share regarding the craft beer drinkers. So I mean, there's a lot of work that has been done from by everyone here in the beer industry in Mexico. So I really feel happy with this. We are each time we are more, each time we have better beers. Are a lot of collaborations with some other breweries in other countries. We have more and more festivals. We have more and more um, craft competitions. Uh, every year or every 2 years, when the CBC goes in the States, we have some maybe 2 or 3 or 4 medals in the World Beer Cup. So, so I guess as a country, we are definitely growing. We are learning a lot from the North, from you, from the States, but also from Latin America. I mean, Brazil, Argentina,
Mhm.
every single, even from Panama, for example, they are raising the hand and they are getting like really into the business. That is something that it wasn't like even it wasn't unthinkable. I mean, 10 years ago, I thought I personally thought it would be like a small boom and that's it. But no, I mean, everything is growing and people is getting interested in this. And for example, in the tap rooms, I see a lot of people getting into, and they are just asking for, and you notice about them, they say, okay, I want something like Corona. I don't like dark beers, or just give me something like there's another beer in Mexico named Victoria, which is like a Vienna lager, and they are like only dark or light beer. And there's a lot of work from our side, from the taproom owners and from the brewery owners, like giving this knowledge to the people. I mean, I really love to receive people when I'm at the bar, that they only are looking for a color in the beer. I mean, I want a dark beer and that's it. But giving them a light beer, a blonde, for example, a blonde ale, and finding them like they like it. I mean, work the whole idea of what they are looking for, and that suddenly they are back the next week, and back the week after that week, and that they suddenly invite their friends and they discover this world, and suddenly they are like taking tours and they bring friends and family because they found something that they like, and in a place that it's like chill for everyone.
Mhm.
For example, in Mexico, it's not really common to take the little kids to a bar, because it is not like a suitable idea or an
Right.
ambience for a tiny guy. But bringing them to the brewery, and we have like games, and we are pet friendly and kids friendly,
Mm.
and everything works. Having the community together, that's something new definitely for Mexico. And you find a lot of tap rooms outside of the city that they say, okay, we are a brewery, but we are a community, and we offer a space for people to come and read, and come and work and come with the family. And maybe that's something really common in Canada or in the States. That the brewery is like a neutral space. It's a place where you can go and get relaxed. But for example, at least in Mexico City, there are not many open breweries. I can say we are
Mhm.
basically the only one really open in the brewery and with a tap room. And all the other ideas are tap rooms or bars, but they are only focused on serving and okay, ask for a beer and eat and go, or get
Mm.
hard drinks, but not about the idea of being a community. So that's something amazing that people is like thanking a lot.
For sure. I like that you brought all that up because those are all the same benefits we definitely tout on, like our tours and when we talk to people about the craft beer scene. It's certainly becoming a very popular thing as a community hub with craft breweries, especially, well, at least all the ones in Andy and in my experience where, they're welcoming families, they're welcoming pets, they're having games and all this stuff. So it's great. And I also wanted to go back to a little bit about what you said where you're having some clientele come in and they're being curious, right? Whether they just want a light beer or a dark beer, but you said you're proposing a Vienna lager or something maybe on the in between, and then they're telling their friends that's sort of the whole, maybe the whole movement of craft beer of how it is. But maybe to that effect, since that you have first hand experience of some of these customers coming in and asking for certain beers, or maybe certain styles of beers, do you find that there's maybe a craft beer style that is more up and coming, maybe in Mexico City or surrounding?
Well, I guess that we have the answer will be three different ways to explain this.
Mhm.
We have the customer that is not looking for anything new. They want to go to a known land,
Mhm.
and they take the option of something, making a comparison with the regular beers. So we normally offer like a American light lager, or like we know them as a transition beer, something that will be into the regular boundaries of the customer, like a light lager, blonde ale, maybe a red ale. It's something risky for them, but okay, they are okay with that, and that is something for the regular customer. We have some other customers that are more risky and they would like to have something different, or or like that. The next style that is like really common here in Mexico, and that's like the common path for the new beer craft beer drinker, is stout or imperial stout. I mean, the high ABVs are something like um, that open the eyes of the customer. So
Mhm.
they make a comparison with like a hot espresso and strong beers, and that's something they really like and enjoy, having two beers and feel like they have like a
Seven
full
light
box.
lagers, yeah.
Exactly. So that's the other like the other side of the how what do we offer. And in the third time, and people that are drinkers that are already have like several beers in a few time, they start with IPAs, and they are just looking for IBUs, and they are always asking, and you notice when they are like newbies, and they are always like, how many IBUs does it have, and they are like in that time
Mm.
doing well, giving you these three examples. I guess people in Mexico are more into like strong beers, like maybe porter or stout. That would be something that will definitely like a new customer getting into the craft scene. That's like a at least in Mexico City, or in
Mhm.
this in the center of the country, and to the south. For example, in Monterrey, I was just in the beer festival of the last week. We were something near 40 degrees, It was like
Oof,
hell.
that's hot.
And they are normally drinking all day light lagers. There's
Mhm.
a common beer in the north that it's Tecate. And Tecate is like Tecate light. It's like 3.5 ABVs. It's almost like
Mm.
water, but that's what you need
Yeah,
in
the hot
high
weather.
temperatures. So yeah, I mean, we went there with some kegs of light lager and really light pale ale, and that was the first thing we sold at. I
Oh,
mean, we have some stout, some hazy IPAs, some a regular IPA, and I'm not pretty sure about the other one. But that was like, okay, just give me the lightest beer you have, because I'm really thirsty and the sun is knocking me out. So in the
mm,
north part of the city, at least in that area of Monterrey and um, Chihuahua and Sonora and everything apart in the north of Baja, because Baja is another story. It's totally a different story. But all the north states of the country, they are like into really light beers, crispy and
mm.
drinkable beers.
Well, Diego, tell us more about your inspiration to do what you do. So you started off as bringing in beer imports to Mexico, then you opened your brew pub, right? Tell us about your whole interest in actually devoting your professional life to beer.
Well, I think definitely that German family that first saw our emails and then they were like totally into selling beer to Mexico was a big inspiration for me because I mean they are like they start the brewery or their family start the brewery by maybe 300 years ago. It's like a big, really big brewery, but uh, in Germany they are really small. But they were like always everything, thinking everything about the beer. And the first time I went there and meet them, and I went to a folk fest, which is something like the Oktoberfest, but out of the Bavaria area. And they and the culture and how they were so devoted to the beer, and that the beer was at every time, and it wasn't it wasn't wrong to have a beer even if you were like in your lunchtime. I mean,
Mhm.
I went and I saw a lot of people going for lunch and taking a beer and going back to the office. That was something impossible in Mexico. I mean,
Mm.
11 years ago, before I started on this, I was working for a logistics company and I was like a customer executive. So it wasn't thinkable about going out for lunch. I haven't even a beer. I mean, it
Mhm.
wasn't. I mean, it wasn't correct for me. But when I visit Germany and I saw that it was not about beer drinking, but it was about the culture
Mhm.
around the beer, and that the meaning of the beer is family, is friends, business, and all that ideas. Um, Not only about drink, not about getting drunk, not about having a big consumption with responsibility. It was like, wow, I mean, there's something here. And that's why I like take a deep look about the business. And it wasn't just, and I realized that it wasn't just importing and selling, but it was importing the right beer and present it with all everything was that was behind of that beer. And then I realized about um, the U.S. market. I'm a really fan of Sam Caligiani from Duckfish. Um, he saw a lot of things where nothing was clear for the rest of the people, and Well, that's was something that was impressive for me, and I realized that I wanted to live for showing about everything that is behind of the beer. I really love, and for me, the beer is like like the perfect idea. I mean, who gets angry when when somebody tells you, let's grab a beer and let's talk about this, even if it's a
Mm,
good thing, a bad thing. If something good happens, you get a beer. If something bad happens, you get a beer. I mean, it's a market that is not
it's a
about
good
how the
point.
things going. Yeah.
Everyone
So
loves a beer.
every time it's a good time for a beer. So that was something that blew my mind at that time and keep blowing my mind today. I mean, I met my wife when we opened that first tap room, and she was a customer, and I met her the first day I opened this business, and now we are
Oh, yeah.
married. We have a little girl. I mean, suddenly it was everything. The beer was everything for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's such a awesome story. Like your life sort of expanded just through the aspect of beer, which is really, really cool. I have a question for you, especially with your importing business. I know you mentioned that's sort of your first foray into beer. Prior to importing this stuff to Mexico, did you do any like local research on styles that maybe you wanted to import, or did you just sort of go off a hunch saying like, hey, this is great, this is amazing, everyone needs to experience this? How did you, maybe I guess pull the trigger? Like, what did that look like?
It was fun because I was finishing my master degree in logistics. I was like really into only logistics, and that was at least the path I chose since the college. So I thought that was the way I should keep searching. Um, almost at the end, when I needed to make my final project of import, uh, that was the time when we realized about importing the beer. So yeah, I make a full project about the market in Mexico in that time, how everything was going, the customer habits and consumption habits, and that's why we turned to Germany as a first supplier of beer. I mean, taking lagers and the variations the Germans had was like okay, yeah. I mean that definitely will work in Mexico. That's something that is really close to what Mexican beer drinkers are used to. So yeah, there's a project that I actually found it like maybe a year and a half ago, and I was laughing about what I was thinking about that time
Looking back.
about the beer business. Yeah.
Oh, that's neat. That's super neat.
Diego, you mentioned sort of the beer customs and cultures, and obviously beer in an older traditional country like Germany is different than beer traditions of the United States, maybe more so in the last 100 years. Can you touch on, maybe just for Garrett and I and anyone listening, a little bit more about Mexican drinking culture? So obviously things are changing now. Folks are more interested in exploring craft beer or maybe craft distilleries of different types of hard alcohol. But tell us about beer, maybe in Mexico in the last 100 years. How has that affected your culture? And just sort of tell us about the connection of beer in Mexico.
Oh, sure. I mean, the beer culture came with the Spanish people coming to Mexico, and sometime after that, there were a lot of Europeans, German companies coming to Mexico to make business, to open their factories. So some of those factories 100 years ago were like they were focused on selling the beer to all the Germans in Mexico, to Spanish people in Mexico, or Europeans in Mexico, because in Mexico it wasn't like something, it wasn't a national industry. I mean, we used to have some distilleries uh, doing tequila, for example, or
Mhm.
mezcal. We have another beverage named pulque, which is a fermentation of the agave, and it's like really, it's like something really hard to drink if you are not used to. Uh, it is not a high alcohol beverage, but after 1 liter, you have some effects in your body. But that was quite everything in Mexico around maybe 1950s. There were some more options with some other distilled beverages, like some scotch and rum, and people was okay drinking that. The beer, it was like only for like the poor people, just like the mezcal. That nowadays mezcal is really everywhere, and it's even expensive than tequila. But that was the same scenario for the beer. I mean, the beer was only for poor people. It was cheap, and nobody cares about the beer anytime it was really cold. So we had during a lot of time like really bad beers in Mexico, but it works. I mean, people was drinking and everything was okay. People get like drunk. I mean, the Mexican is like really happy having holidays for anything. So I mean, if you have a new kid coming, you'll have a party. And if somebody is, I mean, we have something really weird that every day of the year it has like a name.
Okay.
And for example, my day of San Diego, I'm not pretty sure the day, but there's some a day of my name. People get or used to get drunk or make parties, and everything is a good any idea, it's a good idea to get improvised party. So Mexican people loves to make food, to cook, to invite the neighbors. Even if you don't know them, you can invite them and you'll know them lately. So
Mhm.
the Mexican people likes to party, likes to get friends. We are really warm with people, and even warmer with the people we don't really know. Just because, I mean, we like
Social.
to know people, and that's something of Mexicans. You figure it out when you come to Mexico. Um, we're really open, and we like to to offer our guests the best possible experience we can offer. So that's something in the drinking habits of the Mexican. Nowadays, we have a lot of beers. We have a lot of distilled industry. So, well, yeah, people is looking every time for new ideas, for new styles. They are really into the trends in the beer styles, and we have a lot of people knowing in a really deep way the beer world. I mean, there's a lot of people doing Cicerone exams, and the people who is into the beer scene, they are really getting into deeply, which is something amazing. I mean, that only give us like a higher standards for the beers we import, as but also about the cold chain in the logistics to have them in a better conditions during the trip. And well, people is always asking for better and better brews, and that's something we need to listen, because otherwise people is losing will lose the interest in us as a country producing beer.
For
Mhm.
sure. Variation and variety, and as the industry grows, like all that sort of goes hand in hand, right? When the industry grows, more people get interested, and you get more people doing it, and then there's more variation, more variety. People are sort of setting their own beer maybe to the standard of someone else who's doing it, or the next person who's done something really cool and interesting. And then maybe that'll even further, the aspect of culture that you pointed out there, Diego. Like, the Mexicans trying to give the best experience that they possibly can, and if you can now do that with these new wonderful different styles of craft beer and new iterations of it all, that just adds to the experience. I think that's a fantastic thing.
Yeah. I mean, in Mexico is growing. We, for example, we don't have the three-tier system like in some other countries. Uh, we are able to sell directly to the end customer, which is something amazing, I guess. And we keep because it helps to get a good business for the producer and a good price for the consumer. Because we have really high taxes here in Mexico for producing beer.
Hmm.
So at least for a few years more, I guess the government won't take a deep look into the way the three tier works and what the three tier offers to the customer and to the business in general. But it works.
Right. Diego, I ask this question a lot to individuals all across the world who we've spoken to, because I'm interested in the typical client or the typical individual who would be consuming craft beer in, say, Mexico City. So you mentioned price. Is price very prohibitive for individuals looking for a night out to socialize? Do some people, is craft beer maybe too expensive for the average Mexican citizen to enjoy him or herself? Because I always mention that in Canada or in the United States, craft beer is kind of in this weird area where it's a little bit more expensive than your typical macro beer, but not really that much more expensive in order to be prohibitive for the middle class, we can say, to enjoy craft beer. So can you tell us about your typical craft beer drinker in Mexico City?
Yeah, well, yeah, my answer will be yes. It's a little bit out of the budget. A typical drinker will be willing to spend in a night. Just to give you an idea, for example, one Corona rounds in a regular bar, something around 250. I'm talking in US dollars. I'm not pretty close to, I guess Canadian dollars and US dollars are pretty much the same.
Close enough.
It's okay. You can use US dollars as the,
We know we are
Oh,
yeah.
close enough for you.
250 rounds for a Corona. And you'll find a craft beer glass like 355 milliliters around in 450, which is maybe in Canadian way of thinking, it is not so much difference. But the minimum weight in minimum weight in Mexico around $6 a day, which is nothing. I mean, you'll be spending your whole shift just buying a beer.
Right.
That's talking about the minimum salary a day. But yeah, I mean, it is something. Um, it's hard for new people knowing this to spend that amount of money. But I mean, our objective market does not wins the minimum wage a day. Anyway, well, yeah, there's a difference. But once they try, they are like, okay, yeah, I mean, this tastes better, have more alcohol. It's not water like the regular industrial beers. Well, after a few time, they get into they convert to a craft beer drinker. The hard thing is to offer them what they are looking for. I mean, if you offer an IPA to a newbie, that will probably end not really well. So that's something I always talk with our crew. I mean, if you see that they are like news and you offer what you like an double IPA or hazy
Oh,
IPA,
yeah,
that could be a bad choice, a bad option for them. Just it's really important for you because that customer will keep thinking that craft beer is really hoppy and is really strong in that flavor. So I mean, everything is on the first impression.
for sure. Got to cater to the clientele, and a quick conversation, right? Then you get around that. You just ask them what they typically drink, what they might be interested in, find something on the in between. I guess that's when you mentioned you took some time and went into the hospitalities area and got to know how to do it, right? And that's a big part of the business as well, right? Just serving everyone every IPA you can conjure might not be the best option, but building, you have to actively help build your customer base to the point where maybe they'll enjoy something or maybe they won't, and then knowing that balance for sure. Do you think, I guess maybe as people grow more accustomed to craft beer in and around Mexico City, that you'll see different styles popping up, like maybe they'll do their own research, which always leads me sort of to the question of home brewing, because I don't know anything about home brewing in Mexico. But is that somewhat popular on its own, or do people sort of rely on maybe larger craft breweries?
Well, there are tons of groups of doing craft, doing like those small batches and learning. They get together to like change ideas and doubts and everything. Um, there's actually a new bar in town named Under Tap, and they are only home
Oh,
brewers with home brews. And I've been there for a couple of times, and I was really amazed about what they are brewing. They are they have a really it's tiny spot, but they share all the expenses between maybe there must be like 8 or 10 home brewers having this spot to offer their beers, and they are doing a great job for
hmm,
sure. Uh, it's amazing. For example, we have a continuous tap in our tap room, which name is like um, Brewer Star, Next Star, something like that. I'm not pretty sure about the translation, but we only tap beers from home brewers just to
cool.
give them exposure to a real market, and they are and we are serving their beers with main breweries from Mexico and from the States, and I guess it is not like a big thing, but I guess it's something for them, and gives them confidence. And sometimes when we connect something and they invite all their friends to the tap room, they have a lot of feedback about the beers, and they use Untap, and they offer through Untap to the regular customers. And sometimes we uh, make some Instagram stories about this, and people goes to the tap room to drink this new star coming
Hmm.
before they get known, or before they get their brewery in like in a real or in a bigger way. So yeah, I mean the we used to do home brewing, and it was fun. It was it always ended with a lot of mistakes, but
Mhm.
we have a few really good beers in Untap. And well, yeah, it's fun. It's part of knowing this, knowing all the effort you need to make to get a beer in your glass. And yeah, I mean, it's something that it's growing constantly here in Mexico.
It's good. That's good to hear. I like that you have that, a tap dedicated to them. That's good. Definitely helps spur, more motivation and more inspiration for craft beer. So that's awesome. Happy that you have that.
Diego, you have two tap rooms, correct? Hop 1 and Hop 2.
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
that's right.
We have
And then-
another one
Go ahead.
that is like a branch in Merida, Yucatan. But yeah, we that one works independently from us, but it's our brand. But yeah, we handle this Hub 1 and Hub 2 in Mexico City.
Okay, so you have Hop 1 and Hop 2, and then you have the smaller one in Yucatan. When did you create Hop number 2? That was more recently.
It was 2016.
2016. So have you found that, Diego, is it sort of your ambition to make Hop a little bit more of a Mexican brand across the country? Is that your focus? I know you're a logistics guy, Diego, so I could see maybe in the back of your mind wanting to scale the enterprise a little bit, or are you really focused on staying in Mexico City and making that more of a local brand?
Well, we definitely are having like and even after the pandemic, um, we had like this idea of having a hub number. I don't know. I hope there's a lot of hub numbers ahead, but having one hub outside of Mexico, tapping only Mexican beers. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm gonna say the first thing comes to my mind, Miami. And having this crazy offer of only Mexican craft beers on keg, really fresh, having every detail really like care about everything, and only having Mexican beers. I mean, I guess the Mexican culture everywhere, it's something that somehow calls your attention. I mean, even if it's Mexican food or Mexican stuff, I mean, wrestling, food, candies, and now the beer. I guess it's something that can definitely works out of Mexico.
Full circle, a little bit of everything from the Mexican culture. I definitely gravitate towards Mexican food. It's probably one of my top 3 favorite foods. So I'd have to agree there for sure.
The best.
And sometimes I found that it's like something Tex-Mex, not even the real Mexican. So anytime we have friends coming from any part of the world, I personally take them to have the real Mexican experience, and they after that told me that Taco Bell has nothing to do with the taco. So
Definitely
so,
not.
Yeah. Garrett and I, we eat too much Taco Bell. More of the
So
original stuff.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a guilty pleasure, but I think Andy and I are definitely well aware that it doesn't come anywhere close to authentic Mexican cuisine, that's for sure.
Diego, we're coming close to our 1 hour mark, and we don't want to take up too much of your time, but
don't worry.
we want to ask you a little bit towards the future. I know we're coming sort of out of COVID, which I know everyone's feeling pretty nice. Folks are starting to travel again. You're probably seeing a lot more tourists coming into Mexico City. Do you have any plans in the next up and coming years or months or in the near future that you'd like to tell us about? Tell us maybe a bit about your look to the horizon.
Well, I guess the third thing is to pay all the debts we get in the pandemic. That hopefully, according to our CFO, will be clear enough by March of the next year. After that, we definitely need to keep growing with the tap rooms. We have in the radar to open in something in Monterrey, more to the north, in Guadalajara as well. Guadalajara is the main producer of beer in Mexico, at least from craft beer. So there's a really big market there. Um, with the brewery, I mean, we are knocking doors in the States as well as in Canada with the distributor. Um, so I mean, we need to keep growing. We learned a lot in the pandemic. Learn about taking care of the details to make every penny worth. And most important is that anything is safe. I mean, we need to have this clear in every day of work. Even if things are getting better, we need to to give the small baby steps every time and be prepared for uh, another another world class uh, problem.
Mhm.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely good to be prepared. I think we're all a little bit more aware that who knows what could happen into the future. I think we should all be a little bit more prepared for sure.
Who could ever think or imagine that the world will stop?
Yeah,
And it stopped.
It stopped.
yeah, for sure. It's crazy.
Diego
So,
Lara
well,
from Hop the Beer Experience in Mexico City. Diego, we really appreciate the time to speak with us today, and we look forward to chatting with you again soon.
yeah, please take your baggage and come over so you can feel the Mexican experience and the Mexican people giving
Mhm.
you a good time here in Mexico.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
definitely hit you up before you come
Absolutely.
over
The
border
next
for
time
sure.
we're there, we'll let you know. Okay. Thank you, Diego. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you guys. Have
Cheers.
a good one.
Take care.
Cheers.
Cheers. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all our interviews and beer related content. Remember, craft beer is here.